Canada's economy is performing so badly that even the propagandists over at CBC are unable to hide the truth. Now, this clip is circulating around Twitter today. Cat Canada commenting on it, saying, wow, CBC admitting Canada's economy is dramatically deteriorating. They wonder why Canada is doing really poorly, in quotes. Who's going to tell them? Here's the clip from CBC.
Canada's economy is sliding dramatically compared to the United States. In 2023, the U.S. reported a GDP per capita of almost $65,000. That is compared to Canada, which is just over $45,500. So, how did Canada stray so far from the United States? Broadly, does this stem from the U.S. doing something really well or Canada doing something really poorly?
Well, that's a great question. So if you look at last year, you gave the 2023 data. For Canada, that's just slightly below where the Canadian economy was per person 10 years prior to that, back in 2014. Whereas in the United States, we've seen growth of over 19% by that measure. But it's not just us versus the United States that's diverging. Right. Our position relative to the G7 has also been deteriorating. Our divergence with all advanced industrial economies in what's called the OECD group of countries. 2024 might be the first year where Canada falls below the OECD average. And that is a sharp reversal from the roughly 10% advantage that we held for the quarter century between 1990 and 2015. So it's not just a unique American success story. It is really a story about Canada's economy lagging behind where we'd like it to be.
It's a story of the decline of the Canadian economy. But if you asked our federal government, how are we doing? They're going to brag. They don't look at GDP per capita. They just look at GDP overall. And that really helps when you have millions of new people every year in the country. That really does help. But, here's Christian Freeland telling us just how well we're doing.
Wages have been outpacing inflation for 18 months in a row, and that is really good news for Canadian families. It means they bring home more in their paycheck. It
means you might not have to cancel your Disney Plus after all. Wow. How many people are actually benefiting right now? Tell me in the comments. Leave a comment down below. Are you making more now than is the increase in inflation? If you looked at grocery prices, which in the past 18 months, I believe went up about 20%. Are you making 20% more money than you did 18 months ago? Are you making 20% more money than it cost to get a loan only 18 months ago? Let's see in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. But the rest of the world, or anyone with their head screwed on right, is looking at this like a completely different story. Better dwelling, story after story. Canada's real estate fueling productivity crisis. Quality of life to erode. This is what we're expecting here in Canada. Canada's young adults facing soaring unemployment and unaffordable housing. Oh, wow. Aren't we just doing chipper? Canada saw the share of households struggling to meet and make ends meet jump to 50%. This is just insane, but this is not, this is more the reality of what's happening in Canada, and the propagandists are having a hard time to hide it any longer. But of course, the government is coming along and telling us, you're doing fine. And guess what? We're going to do this more because you don't need an election right now. No. You just need more of what we've given you.
Unfortunately, conversations with the Conservatives haven't been productive. They're mostly focused on politics and trying to cause an election.
Hopefully the NDP will continue to try and deliver for Canadians. Right now they're focused on politics. We're focused on Canadians.
What we heard over the summer, all of us spent a great deal of time traveling the country, talking to people in our own communities. We heard that people have frustrations, and we listened. And what we heard is that Canadians need housing. They need us to build more homes faster. That is what we're doing.
I traveled across the country this summer. People talk to me about making ends meet. They talk to me about the high cost of rent and the need for more housing. They talk to me about the environment and climate change and the impacts of it. And these are the things that we're focused on, rather than focusing on politics.
What I heard this summer was Canadians don't want elections. They just want us to do the job.
And I think to other parties who are pining for an election, they have to ask, well, what's their end game here? I think it seems to be more about serving their interests than Canadians' interests. We still have over a year left to get things done. And I think people expect us to be focused on the work of the nation.
We have just over a year to get things done. This is why people want an election. We've had enough of what you do. Absolutely. Of course, you know, here we are with the original economic plan of Justin Trudeau just before he got elected.
So in this economic climate, how committed to a balanced budget would you be right now? Would it worry you to go into deficit in this current climate to, as you say, put more people to work?
The commitment needs to be a commitment to grow the economy, and the budget will balance itself. This way,
the budget will just balance itself. That's where it's going to go. This is what they've been planning the whole time. Let's just grow the economy. Well, the economy is shrinking because of what they've been doing, and the budget is not balancing itself. No, not at all. In fact, what we've found is Justin Trudeau, in his measures, he'll just double down further and further. Even when global news is asking him, what's going to happen in the future when you have to service these debts?
Regardless of what that figure is exactly, future governments are going to have to carry that debt. The servicing costs on that are going to be very high.
Sorry?
The servicing costs on the debt that you're going to have to carry, that you're adding to now, right?
Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn.
Okay, but it's still a lot of money.
No.
It's still a lot of money.
No.
And you don't know where. Okay, but how are you going to pay for that?
That was a little bit of common sense coming out of the media at one point. It's a very rare occasion when they come out and they say something like, hey, you know, maybe all this debt you're bringing and burdening us with, perhaps we're going to have to pay that back, and maybe not even at historically low interest rates, perhaps at even higher interest rates. But that's where we're at. Now, Justin Trudeau, he's making a campaign going around saying that, you know, they need to stay in power because you know what conservatives are going to do? They're going to cut all their spending. They're going to cut all of that spending that they've increased since they got in 9 years ago. Conservatives might come in and cut that stuff.
Conservatives right now are offering cuts to programs, cuts to services, because they think that's what creates growth. Well, you know, as a community...
I'm sorry, but this guy thinks that spending more money is what makes things grow. That's not going to make... The government spending money is not going to make things grow. I'm sorry. Yeah, in entrepreneurs spending money, but when entrepreneurs don't have any money because they're paying large government debt, you're paying huge tax burdens on this government debt, then that's what's going to happen. People are not going to be spending in the economy. Only the government is.
What creates growth is being there for each other, is standing up for each other. That's why this government will always be the government that stands up for communities, stands up for fundamental rights, that knows that Canada is one of those great and rare places on earth that is strong, not in spite of our differences, but because of our differences. And we will always stand up, whether it's the bullies from around the world or whether it's the bullies here at home, to make sure that everyone in Canada gets to be free, gets to live safely, and gets to build a better future for their kids and their grandkids.
What does that have to do with too much spending? This guy's spending like a drunken sailor. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. Is Canada doing all right with all of this spending? Is this just, the liberals? They're telling us what's happening. We just don't realize. We just don't see it. It hasn't really. We need to stick together and spend all that tax money. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. And of course, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.